The first time I saw Randall Mall, it was already dead. A black shape against the Ohio sky, hollow windows staring back like the sockets of a skull. They said it had been abandoned for 15 years, but the place didn't feel empty. It felt like it was waiting. When I took the night guard job, the hiring manager didn't meet me at an office or even on site. He slid a sealed envelope under my apartment door. Inside was a key, a flashlight, and a folded sheet of paper. The first line read, "The mall is not yours to protect. You're there so it can watch you." I almost quit right then, but rent doesn't wait for nerves. So that night, I drove out past the rusted highway signs and empty parking lots, the mall rising from the fog like a tomb. My headlights swept across broken glass and faded murals of smiling families. The place was smiling at me too. The key worked on the front entrance, though the metal door groaned like it hadn't been opened in years. Inside, the air was thick, heavy, and wrong. My flashlight beam caught mannequins still standing in cracked storefronts, their painted eyes following me. Someone had dressed one in a torn security jacket. I unfolded the paper again. Rule 1. Do not acknowledge the mannequins. If one moves, you didn't see it. My throat went dry. They looked like they had already shifted since I'd stepped in, but maybe that was just the shadows. Maybe. The paper continued. Rule 2. Never look directly at the skylight in the food court. If you do, whatever's looking back will notice you. My flashlight flickered. Somewhere far off, I heard a faint squeak, like the echo of a mall cart rolling across tiles. The mall groaned as if alive, steel beams settling with a sound too much like breathing. I tried to laugh, but the air pressed heavy against my chest. Every step echoed back louder than it should have, bouncing around like the mall wanted me to hear myself coming. By midnight, the silence had teeth. I reached the food court, tables still scattered as if people had just left. Trays with faded ketchup stains, a plastic cup melted into itself. Above me, the skylight glistened faintly with dew. Or was it something else? The paper crinkled in my hand. Don't look. I sat at the guard station, little more than a folding table with a radio. Static hissed from it, though I hadn't touched the dial. I turned it off, but the static continued, spilling into the room. A whisper rose inside it, low and grainy. We're still shopping. My flashlight dimmed. Across the court, one of the mannequins now stood at a different table, head tilted at me. My chest tightened. I remembered the rule, don't acknowledge them. So I forced my eyes away. But out of the corner of my vision, another mannequin stepped down from its pedestal. I gripped the radio tighter, heart pounding in my ears. The mannequins weren't supposed to move. They weren't supposed to be. But my mind kept circling back to the paper in my hand. The rules weren't warnings. They were instructions for surviving something I couldn't yet see. Rule 3. If you hear children laughing, hide immediately. They don't belong here anymore. My mouth went dry. The paper had more, but I couldn't force myself to read further. Not yet. Not while I swore I heard faint, distant giggles drifting through the cracked walls. I ducked behind the counter of a shuttered pretzel stand, flashlight off. My breath fogged the air, cold settling into my bones though it was early summer outside. The laughter grew, echoing across empty halls, too sharp, too playful. It wasn't memory. It was real. The sound moved past me, invisible feet pattering against tile. A balloon floated into view, red and glossy, bumping gently against the floor. No child held the string. I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to bolt. The rules didn't say run. They said hide. The balloon hovered, tilting toward me. My lungs screamed for air, but I stayed frozen, praying the thing would drift away. At last, the laughter faded. The balloon sagged, deflating in seconds until it was nothing but shriveled rubber on the dirty tiles. I exhaled shakily. My hands trembled as I unfolded the sheet again. The ink seemed darker now, as if it had bled deeper into the page. Rule 4. The escalators are still moving. Never step on them. They don't lead where you think. Sure enough, I heard it, metal groaning, gears grinding, though the power had long been cut. When I raised my light, the escalator in front of Macy's shuddered, stairs rising like the maw of a beast. They vanished into an endless blackness that had nothing to do with shadow. I stumbled back, my boot crunching glass. Immediately, the escalator groaned louder, as though it had heard me. My light flickered, revealing for only an instant faces pressed against the black void where the escalator ended. Dozens, maybe hundreds. The radio sputtered back on. This time the voice was clear. "Up you go." The words crawled into my skin. I fumbled with the dials, but no matter what I tried, the static clung, repeating that phrase in endless, distorted tones. The rules sheet shook in my hand, though I wasn't moving. New words etched themselves across the bottom. "Don't listen to the radio after 1 a.m. It isn't for you anymore." My watch ticked. 12:58, 2 minutes. I shoved the radio off the table, static shrieking as it hit the ground. The mall groaned in response, a low tremor that rippled through the floor beneath me. Somewhere upstairs, a store gate rattled open, metal clashing against stone. Against my better judgment, I aimed my flashlight up. The second level was a stretch of shadows and broken glass, mannequins standing at attention in long-forgotten clothing displays. But one wasn't standing anymore. It crawled on all fours along the railing, head bent backward. I shut the light off, clutching the rules like a lifeline. Rule 5. If a mannequin notices you, change your uniform immediately. Do not let them recognize the guard's badge. I looked down. The patch on my jacket glimmered faintly in the dark. The mannequins above creaked, joints cracking like brittle wood. I yanked the jacket off and shoved it under the pretzel stand. My chest prickled with cold. In the corner of my eye, the crawling figure stilled, its head twitching like it was sniffing the air. I pressed against the wall, heart slamming, whispering to myself, "You didn't see it. You didn't see it." My voice quavered. The paper burned against my skin, hot with unseen weight. For the first time, I wondered if the mall itself was writing the rules. When the sound of movement finally stopped, I dared to breathe again. The mannequins remained frozen, watching without eyes. My flashlight buzzed weakly as I turned it away from them. The mall wasn't empty. It was full, just not of the living. I moved deeper, past boarded storefronts and shattered displays. A faint glow spilled from the old arcade, pulsing like neon, though the power lines were long cut. A half-dozen machines flickered, screens humming with static, joysticks twitching on their own. At the center of it all stood one machine untouched by dust. Its screen glowed faintly green, letters scrolling across. "Insert coin to continue." My throat closed. There, balanced perfectly in the slot, was a familiar old coin, edges worn, glinting faintly under the light. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. But even standing at the threshold, the machine whirred louder, speakers crackling with a child's voice. "Play with us. One game. Just one." My hands shook as I backed away, rules crinkling in my grip. The paper was trembling too. Rule 6. Never touch the coin in the arcade. If you do, you'll never leave the mall again. The arcade lights flickered violently, then snapped off all at once. Darkness rushed in, so thick it felt like liquid pressing against my skin. I stumbled back into the hallway, the mall swallowing every sound but my own shallow breath. The coin still glowed faintly inside, burning through the dark like an eye that refused to blink. I forced myself down another corridor, past shops with broken glass teeth for windows. My flashlight beam shook, landing on a sign that still hung above a store, Children's Place. The mannequins inside were smaller, child-sized, all posed like they were mid-play. Their heads turned toward me at once. I stumbled back, biting down a scream. My chest rattled with air I couldn't get out. The rules sheet writhed in my grip, a new line etching itself in trembling strokes. If the children find you, offer them something shiny. Do not let them take your eyes. As if in answer, the mannequins moved. Their painted mouths split open wider than they should have, plastic creaking as they giggled in unison. One stepped off its pedestal, glassy fingers reaching for me, while another dragged something sharp across the floor. My pockets were nearly empty, but desperation made me dig. A keychain flashlight, scratched and useless. I threw it across the room. The child mannequins froze, then scrambled for it, giggling louder. I bolted down the hallway, the laughter chasing me until the sound bled into static. The static didn't come from the radio. It came from the ceiling. I looked up, regretting it instantly. Speakers dangled from the rafters, their wires twitching like veins. The static rose into garbled music, mall jingles warped and broken, playing on a loop too fast, then too slow. A voice crackled through the speakers. "Attention shoppers. The mall never closed. The mall is forever." My ears rang as the lights buzzed overhead, flickering in rhythm with the words. The air turned sour, like mold and rot. I shoved the paper open again, breath shallow. Rule 7. If you hear an announcement, cover your ears and keep walking. Do not listen to the message. It is not meant for you. I pressed my palms to my ears and stumbled forward. Even muffled, the announcements clawed their way into my skull. Sail in the East Wing. New arrivals. Fresh stock. Each phrase lodged like hooks. When I dared glance behind me, I saw shapes pouring from the storefronts, dragging themselves into the halls. They weren't mannequins. They weren't human either. They were shoppers, or what was left of them. Mouths stretched too wide, limbs bending at sharp angles, shopping bags swinging from bone-white fingers. Their eyes burned like the mall signs, glowing neon in the dark. I ran, lungs burning, until I reached a wide atrium. The fountain at its center had long dried, but tonight it bubbled black with something thicker than water. The mannequins stood around it, heads bowed like worshippers, plastic hands clasped. A mannequin lifted its head. Its mouth opened, voice spilling out smooth and wrong. "Coins for the fountain. Always pay your respect." The others nodded, creaking as they echoed the phrase. "Always pay your respect." I staggered back, the rules paper buzzing in my hand. Words spread across the bottom, sharp and hurried. "Do not give them the coin. Never give them the coin. I didn't have it. The arcade did. But somehow I felt it pulsing in my pocket, heavy and cold. My hand trembled against my leg. The coin was there, resting like it had always belonged to me. I hadn't touched it, hadn't even gone near the machine, but the mall had given it to me anyway. The mannequins creaked louder, heads snapping toward me. I clutched the coin tighter, backing away from the fountain. My skin burned where the metal touched, branding me with heat that wasn't fire but something deeper. My reflection warped across its surface, eyes too dark, smile too wide. The mannequins began to move, slow and synchronized, circling the fountain. The black water bubbled louder, rising in thick bubbles that popped and filled the air with stench. Something was climbing out of the fountain, dragging itself toward me with wet, slapping hands. Its body was shapeless, a mound of tar-like flesh. But its face was my own, twisted and grinning, teeth sharp as glass. "Give it back," it croaked in my voice. "You don't deserve it." The mannequins nodded in time with its words. I choked back bile, forcing the coin into my pocket. "You can't have it," I whispered, voice trembling. My words echoed louder than I meant them to, bouncing around the atrium like the mall itself had repeated them. The thing's grin widened. The rules sheet split open, new words clawing across its surface. "Do not argue with your reflection. It always wins." My stomach sank. I turned, but the glass storefronts around me lit up, each one showing my warped reflection, dozens of me grinning from the dark. The reflections stepped forward. Not mine anymore, but something worse. My coin pulsed like a heartbeat. I realized then the rules weren't instructions for survival. They were the mall's way of training me, to play by its rules, until I wasn't me anymore. The reflections began pressing against the glass, smearing their grins across the surface. Their fists hammered until cracks spidered outward. I backed into the atrium, clutching the coin so tight it cut into my palm. The black water thing hissed my name in perfect mimicry. The mannequins moved in unison, circling me now, their joints snapping louder with each step. The rules sheet writhed again. "Find the escalators. They lead up, but only if you don't look down." My flashlight sputtered. Somewhere above, I heard the groan of metal. I bolted toward the nearest escalator. Its steps were rusted, teeth jagged with grime. The handrails twitched under invisible hands. My foot hit the first step, and it lurched to life, dragging me upward far too quickly. the hum of gears louder than my breath. The mannequins screamed below, their voices high-pitched and sharp like plastic snapping. I kept my eyes locked on the floor above, refusing to look down. My throat burned. The escalator shook violently, jerking side to side, trying to throw me off. A shadow loomed above. Someone stood at the top, still as a statue. My chest seized. As I neared, I realized it wasn't someone. It was me, another me, staring down with hollow eyes. Its lips moved, whispering words I couldn't hear. The rules burned against my hand, forcing my eyes away. Do not acknowledge yourself on the upper level. I shoved past it, heart hammering as its grin widened, teeth splitting too far. My skin crawled as I felt it lean close, whispering something wet into my ear. The upper level was worse. The storefronts were half dissolved, walls bowing in like the building itself had rotted. Black stains streaked the ceiling, dripping into puddles that pulsed as though alive. My shoes stuck to the floor, each step louder than I wanted. Somewhere ahead, I heard music. A carousel tune, tinny and warped, drifting down the hallway. The sound tugged at me, drawing me forward despite the weight in my chest. The paper flared again. Do not follow the music. The ride never stops. I tried to turn away, but my legs betrayed me, step by step. I drifted closer until the hallway opened into a wide court. There it was, a carousel. Perfectly lit, horses gleaming with wet paint. They moved, twitching like breathing animals, eyes rolling in their sockets. Children rode them. Not mannequins this time, but pale figures with mouths too wide, teeth clicking in rhythm to the music. They waved at me, laughter bubbling like syrup. One horse broke free of the carousel, its hooves clattering against the floor as it charged me. I dove aside, landing hard. The horse slammed into the wall, splintering plaster, then turned its head with a crack that echoed like bones. Its rider, a child with hollow eyes, grinned. "Ride with us. The mall is forever," it whispered. I scrambled back, clutching the coin like a weapon. The horse paused, nostrils flaring, then recoiled as if burned. The children hissed, voices tangled together like static. The carousel screeched to a halt, sparks showering the floor. The atrium shuddered, the mall itself groaning like something alive. I ran, not caring where, only away. My footsteps echoed, but another set followed too close, sharp, fast, heavier than mine. The air grew colder. I ducked into a store, slamming the gate halfway shut. My flashlight beam revealed racks of clothing swaying, as though touched by invisible hands. The air reeked of mildew. A low whisper rose from the racks. "You shouldn't be here." The coin vibrated against my palm. My reflection glimmered faintly in the shop's broken mirrors, each copy of me mouthing something different. Some begged me to run. Others laughed. One just stared motionless, until its face cracked open down the middle. The paper surged again. "If the reflections speak, do not answer. Burn the paper if you must. The rules must remain yours." My lighter flicked once, twice, flame catching for a second before dying. The reflections pressed closer, their voices rising. Suddenly, every mirror shattered, glass spraying into the air. I shielded my face, heart racing. When I lowered my arm, the shards hovered midair, floating like stars, each one still showing my twisted grin. They spun in circles, sharp edges pointed at me. The mall boomed with a voice, deep and cavernous. "You took what wasn't yours. Pay the price." My body shook, the sound rattling my bones. The floating shards hurled themselves into the walls, embedding deep, leaving only silence behind. I staggered out of the store. The mall was darker now, its lights flickering in painful bursts. The escalators behind me had vanished, replaced by smooth walls. There was no way back, only forward. The rules sheet was nearly full, covered edge to edge with frantic warnings. My chest heaved. The last words written burned into my mind. When the mall asks for payment, run. But never let go of the coin. I swallowed hard. The floor beneath me trembled like something massive was waking up beneath the tiles. The ground beneath me pulsed, tiles rising and falling like the mall itself had a heartbeat. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed in unison with it, flashing on and off to the rhythm. My coin felt heavier now, dragging my hand toward the floor. A low rumble echoed through the mall. Somewhere far above, a voice groaned like bending steel. "You're late." The sound vibrated in my teeth. I staggered forward, clutching the rules, praying the next instruction would appear. The paper bled red ink. Rule 21. The mall is hungry. When it calls you by name, never answer. If you do, you'll never leave. My throat tightened as my name spilled from the air vents in dozens of overlapping voices. I pressed my hands over my ears, but it didn't help. The voices seeped through my bones, whispering my name like a lover's sigh, like a predator's hiss. The mannequins appeared in the distance, their heads snapping in my direction. They began marching toward me in lockstep, each step synchronized with the pounding heartbeat beneath the tiles. Their blank faces split into cracks, revealing jagged smiles carved too wide. I ran, the mall twisting around me, hallways bending where they shouldn't. Doors that once led to clothing stores now opened into endless staircases. Windows looked out onto black voids instead of parking lots. Every step forward dragged me deeper. The mall was changing, closing in. The rules flared again. Rule 22. Do not trust elevators. They only go down. A ding echoed beside me, and an elevator door slid open. Inside was pitch black. A child's giggle floated out. I turned away, but my reflection in the glass storefront leaned closer, grinning. It whispered, "You can't run forever." The reflection held the coin too, but its hand was dripping blood, crimson trailing down the glass like tears. The floor trembled harder. Ceiling tiles fell, shattering beside me. I ducked into another hallway, my lungs burning. The smell of rot grew stronger, mixed with iron. The mannequins were closer now, their stiff joints cracking as they broke into a sprint. I shoved through a door and stumbled into the old arcade. Machines flickered to life, screens glowing with distorted faces instead of games. Tokens spilled onto the floor, rolling toward me like they were alive. One landed at my feet, another black coin. I froze. My own coin pulsed in my hand, heat searing my palm. The new coin shimmered, begging me to pick it up. The rules writhed. Do not touch the other coins. Yours is the only tether left. My legs shook as the token at my feet twitched. The arcade machines screamed, high-pitched electronic wails. On every screen, my reflection bled from its eyes, pounding against the glass. The mannequins burst into the arcade, their movements jerky but fast. They smelled of plastic melting in fire. I bolted toward the exit, tokens clattering and chasing like a swarm of insects. The mannequins' footsteps thundered behind me. My heart pounded so loud I thought it might burst. Somewhere above, the skylight groaned again, leaking shadows into the food court. I emerged into the atrium. The carousel was still there, but now its horses were broken, twitching piles of bone and paint. The children were gone, their laughter replaced with a low humming that made the air vibrate. The rules paper twisted violently. Rule 23. If the carousel stops, do not touch the horses. They are waiting. My eyes darted to one twitching carcass. It turned its head toward me, teeth clicking wetly. The mannequins poured into the atrium, surrounding me on all sides. The floor buckled beneath us, tiles snapping as black water seeped through the cracks. A stench rose, sweet, rotten, unbearable. I held the coin high. The mannequins froze mid-step, their heads all tilting toward it. Their blank faces split further, wide enough to reveal rows of sharp, jagged teeth beneath the plastic. My knees buckled. The rule sheet caught fire in my hand, burning with no heat. The last words appeared in crimson smoke. Rule 24. To leave, pay the price. But don't ask what it costs. My stomach sank. The mannequins moved again, faster now, lunging for me. I sprinted across the food court, slipping on puddles of black water. The skylight above split open with a deafening crack, darkness dripping down in tendrils. Something massive was pushing through. The mall's heartbeat grew thunderous. The mannequins shrieked. My coin seared brighter, pulling me toward an exit sign that flickered weakly in the distance. The price, they wanted me to pay now. But what if it wasn't just money? I staggered toward the glowing exit sign, the coin blazing in my palm. The mannequins shrieked. their arms stretching unnaturally as they clawed for me. The ground shook harder, tiles snapping away into bottomless voids. The mall was collapsing, or maybe being reborn. The darkness spilling from the skylight twisted into a colossal shape, fingers of shadow curling down to snatch the mannequins and drag them screaming upward. Their plastic bodies split open as they were devoured, swallowed by the void above. I ran faster, the exit door just feet away. The rules burned one final line into the paper. Rule 25. To leave, the mall will take what you love most. My legs faltered. It wasn't asking, it was already choosing. Pain ripped through me as memories flashed like broken film reels. My sister's laugh, my mother's smile, the face of the one person who had ever loved me. I screamed, clutching the coin, but the images were already fading, dissolving like smoke in wind. The exit door loomed. I shoved it open with all my strength, stumbling into icy night air. Behind me, the mall roared, a sound so deep it rattled the stars. The doors slammed shut, leaving me gasping in the empty parking lot. I fell to my knees. The coin clinked against the pavement, still pulsing faintly. My pockets were empty. My wallet, my phone, even my keys gone. The mall had stripped me bare, but worse than that, my mind felt hollow. Something important was missing. I tried to picture her face again, the person I swore I'd never forget. Nothing came, just an aching emptiness where her memory should have been. My hands shook. That was the price. It hadn't taken my life, it had taken my love. The rules sheet lay in front of me, burned to its final corner. Just 3 words remained unscorched. You'll return soon. The paper dissolved into ash, carried away on the night breeze. In the distance, the mall stood silent, its broken windows glowing faintly with interior light. For a moment, I thought I saw mannequins standing at the glass, waving goodbye, or maybe welcoming me back. I still have the coin. It never leaves my pocket, no matter how many times I throw it away. And sometimes, when I sleep, I hear carousel music in my dreams. The mall is waiting. It always is. And soon, I'll have no choice but to go back.